Hollywood, the land of dreams, glitz, and glamour. But beneath the sparkling surface lies a dark underbelly, a world of ambition, desperation, and sometimes unimaginable horror. Today, we re-diving into one of Hollywood's most infamous and chilling cold cases, the murder of Elizabeth Short, a young woman posthumously nicknamed the Black Dahlia. This story is more than just a true crime tale. It is a haunting look at the fragility of dreams and the enduring mystery that has captivated and terrified the public for over 75 years. On the morning of January 15th, 1947, a mother and her young daughter were taking a walk in a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood. They spotted what they first thought was a discarded mannequin lying in a vacant lot. As they got closer, the horrifying truth became clear. It wasn't a mannequin at all. It was the mutilated body of a woman. The discovery sent shockwaves through the city and would soon grip the entire nation. The victim was identified as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. She was an aspiring actress who, like so many others, had moved to California with stars in her eyes, hoping to make it big on the silver screen. She was known for her striking beauty, with pale skin and dark hair, often adorned with a flower. The press, in their typical sensationalist fashion, quickly dubbed her the Black Dahlia, a nickname possibly inspired by a recent film noir, The Blue Dahlia, and her preference for black clothing. The crime scene itself was brutal and bizarre. Elizabeth's body had been severed at the waist with surgical precision. She had been completely drained of blood, and her body was meticulously cleaned before being left in that vacant lot. Her face was slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating a grotesque and permanent smile known as a Glasgow smile. The brutality of the murder was unlike anything the seasoned LAPD detectives had ever seen. The investigation that followed was one of the largest in Los Angeles history. The police were immediately inundated with tips, leads, and most disturbingly, false confessions. Over 60 people, mostly men, came forward to confess to the murder. Each one was investigated and eventually dismissed. It seemed like everyone wanted a piece of the infamy surrounding the Black Dahlia case. The media frenzy was relentless, with newspapers publishing lurid details, rumors, and outright fabrications, muddying the waters of an already complex investigation. The killer even seemed to be toying with the police and the press. About a week after the body was found, the editor of the Los Angeles Examiner received a package. Inside were Elizabeth Short's Social Security card, birth certificate, photographs, and an address book with some pages torn out. The items had been carefully wiped clean with gasoline to remove fingerprints. The package also included a chilling, taunting note made from cut-out magazine letters. It read, "Here are Dahlia's belongings," and later, "Letter to follow." More letters would arrive, but they provided no real clues, only more taunts. So who was Elizabeth Short before she became a macabre headline? She was born in Boston, Massachusetts, in 1924. Her father abandoned the family during the Great Depression, and she grew up with her mother and 4 sisters. She was a restless spirit, dropping out of high school and moving around the country, working as a waitress and dreaming of a life in the movies. She spent time in Florida, Chicago, and eventually made her way to California. Despite the media's portrayal of her as a promiscuous party girl, those who knew her painted a different picture. They described her as a bit naive, someone who enjoyed the nightlife and the attention of men, but was not the femme fatale the newspapers made her out to be. She was often broke, relying on the kindness of acquaintances and a string of short-lived relationships to get by. She was simply a young woman trying to find her place in a tough world, a story that was all too common in post-war Hollywood. In the week leading up to her murder, Elizabeth Short's movements become a blur of conflicting reports. This is what's known as her missing week. She was last seen alive on January 9, 1947, at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. A man she had been casually dating, Robert Red Manley, dropped her off in the hotel lobby. He was the last person known to have seen her alive who could be definitively accounted for. For the next 6 days, her whereabouts are a complete mystery. Where was she? Who was she with? This missing week is the black hole at the center of the investigation, the key that could unlock the entire case, but it remains shrouded in secrecy. The list of potential suspects over the years is vast and varied. The police interviewed hundreds of people, from Hollywood bigwigs to small-time criminals. One of the earliest and most prominent suspects was Robert Manley, the man who last saw her. He was interrogated extensively and passed a polygraph test, leading police to believe he was not involved. Then there were the medical professionals. The surgical precision of the bisection led many to believe the killer had medical training. Dr. George Hodel, a prominent Los Angeles physician, became a major suspect decades after the crime, largely thanks to the investigations of his own son, Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD homicide detective. Steve Hodel discovered disturbing evidence in his father's old belongings, including photos that he believes are of Elizabeth Short. He theorized his father was a sadistic serial killer responsible for not only the Dahlia murder, but several others. The LAPD even bugged Dr. Hodel's house back in 1950, and transcripts reveal him saying things like, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead." Despite this compelling evidence, George Hodel was never charged and moved overseas, where he lived until his death. Other theories point to different men. There was Leslie Dillon, a bellhop and aspiring writer who seemed to know intimate details of the crime. There was Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner whose address book was found among Elizabeth's belongings. There was even a theory linking the murder to a surrealist artist, Man Ray, whose work shared disturbing visual similarities with the crime scene. The list goes on, a tangled web of maybes and what-ifs. The case officially remains open with the LAPD, but after more than 3/4 of a century, the chances of it ever being solved are practically zero. All the primary suspects, witnesses, and investigators are long gone. All that's left is the story, the legend, the ghost of Elizabeth Short that still haunts Hollywood. The Black Dahlia case is more than just an unsolved murder. It's a dark mirror held up to society. It reflects our fascination with the macabre, the sensationalism of the media, and the dark side of the pursuit of fame. Elizabeth Short came to Hollywood seeking a dream, but she became a star only in death, immortalized not for her acting, but as the victim of a horrifying crime. Her story serves as a tragic reminder that behind the bright lights of Hollywood, real people with real lives can get lost in the shadows. What do you think happened? Was it Dr. Hodel, a man with the means and a dark secret? Was it a jealous lover or a random stranger? The truth is, we may never know for sure. The Black Dahlia's killer took their secret to the grave, leaving behind a legacy of fear and endless speculation. It's a puzzle with too many missing pieces, a story without an ending. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most compelling unsolved mysteries. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Let me know your theories on the Black Dahlia case down in the comments. Until next time, stay curious.